Why do we learn languages? For some people, this is to speak to people, to connect with people, to be able to interact with some group of people. For other people, this means to be able to consume culture, to watch videos, movies, to listen to music in another language. This also applies to literature, to be able to access their books and the things they write, to be able to see what your favorite celebrity in another country is posting about on social media. If those are your goals, then you are going to go to a certain type of language and you're going to avoid others. But for some people, the reason they learn languages is to learn a new way to organize their thoughts, to understand other ways to organize the ideas in your head. If this is your goal, you may head towards another style of language entirely. If your goal is to speak to people, it makes sense that you're going to speak languages that are spoken by many people. If this is your goal, you've probably learned Spanish, maybe you've learned Chinese, maybe Arabic, but it's not going to make sense for you to learn Icelandic. If your goal is to learn a new way of thinking, you're probably going to go to languages that are very different to yours. Probably languages that are not related at all. Probably languages that are very far geographically from your language's homeland. What language skill do you value the most? Do you value speaking the most? Do you think it's important to prove to other people that you speak the language, so you need to get your conversation skills down? Maybe you think writing is the most important because you text people all the time. You want to communicate through online means. Maybe listening is the most important skill for you because you can consume tons of TV, films, watch YouTube videos in your target language. Maybe reading is the most important to you. This means you'll go in the direction of literature, thought. You probably value ideas more than humans. And if this is your goal, this will also affect which languages you choose. If speaking is the most important for you, you might try to learn the most common accent, the most understandable accent. You'll spend a lot of time on pronunciation. If you really value reading, you're probably going to expand your vocab as much as possible. You're going to try to learn every difficult grammar point that exists. And that begs the question, can you have a valuable linguistic interaction without speaking? Can you derive what you want from a language without having said anything? Maybe this is through means of reading and writing. Maybe this is through listening and understanding a concept you really liked. It's totally subjective. I'm just bringing up questions. How does one acquire a language in general? Do they acquire language through grammar and vocab lists? Can you speak a language without those things? Assuming we're talking about adults, can you learn a language without those things? Do we acquire languages by interacting with content made by natives? In other words, is imitation the way we acquire a language? Or do we acquire language through speaking and connecting the mind and the mouth? Your answers to these questions completely depend on your opinion, but I just want to bring up the idea that it is legitimate to learn an ancient language. Even if there's not one native speaker left, you can still get what you want out of languages, even if they're dead. Depending on your goals, maybe Latin doesn't make sense and Portuguese makes more sense. But maybe for you, you're not interested in interacting with Portuguese-speaking people, but you really want to understand ancient Roman culture, so Latin makes sense. Maybe you're a historian who wants to look at medieval treaties. That language could be useful for you. Maybe this dead language is a liturgical language for you, and it is very valuable to your religion. That is legitimate as well. I think there is something even freeing about learning a dead language because there is no expectation of fluency when there is no speaking. When you learn French, and you tell someone you learn French, they're probably going to ask you something like, say something in French, and you have to think of something off the top of your head so you curse at them or something. If you tell them you're learning ancient Greek, there isn't an expectation that you speak it. And I find that very freeing because you can explore the language as much as you want without having to prove yourself to people. Because there are some nasty people on there that want you to prove everything. Can you really say that that person didn't learn Latin even though they don't speak it? I never expected the Latin learner to speak it, but I do think they learned something valuable if they went to Latin class for so long? Why should speaking be the default evidence for you learning a language? The goal is not to prove yourself, the goal is to derive what you want from that language. And maybe for you, you really are interested in history. Maybe you want to enrich your understanding of your religion. Maybe you want to develop the understanding of your native language, which is heavily influenced by this dead language. Are those people who learn a language for religious reasons different from those people who go abroad for a semester to learn a language? Speaking is very important, and I don't want to say it's not important, but it's just one piece of the puzzle that is very personalized. That part of the puzzle might not be for you, and that's okay. You can have enlightening moments without speaking once. Maybe you want to read some classic literature in Sanskrit, and even if you don't speak this language, that's alright. I took 3 semesters of Latin at university, and I can say it was a really eye-opening experience because in my head, Romance languages, Germanic languages, Slavic languages are so distant, but Latin class showed me that that connection was actually really recent, and it's developments in the last few hundred years that really have divided languages that should be very similar. I am obsessed with this sort of historical linguistics, so it makes sense for me to enjoy to learn Latin. I don't like talking about Latin much because 1, there's not a big audience for Latin speakers. 2, it's not easy to display that you've learned Latin. Yes, I know this grammar structure, but to be honest, I never really worried about long vowels, short vowels, all of this. I didn't think about pronunciation much. But can you say it didn't affect my understanding of English? It didn't enrich the understanding of English? It didn't help me understand French or Spanish better? It absolutely did. Just because it's not worth it to prove it to you, does that not exist? My point is we really should broaden our understanding of language learning just as something that can be demonstrated. It isn't just something that you can show in a video, it's something deeper. It's really related to how you think, how you organize information, how flexible you are with expressing yourself, and dead languages absolutely show that. On language Twitter or language Instagram, I love being proud of people who watch a film in their target language or interact with people in their target language. I think it's equally valuable when someone uses their language for religious reasons or to read some very valuable history in a dead language. I feel like knowledge and changing your perspective is way more valuable than showing off. It's way more valuable than those videos where white guy surprised Chinese people with his Chinese. It's a little bit more than that for me. The clickbait is fun and all, it's fun to watch, it's fun to partake, but I think for me, language learning is something a little bit more personal and about what I enjoy and what I want to interact with, read, study. So am I making sense? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about dead languages. Are they worth learning? No is a totally valid answer. Yes is a totally valid answer. I'm curious what my audience thinks. Some activities can be more valuable to you than others. That will affect your answer. Thank you for watching this video today. You can follow me on my social media, which is linked below. I also have a website at studywithalex.com where I talk about language related things that could be interesting for you. But that is all for today's video. I'll see you for a new video very soon, alright? Walete!